Welcome to this module where today we're going to be talking about how to move the goalpost for different seasons of life. One of the biggest things that I have noticed working with clients that are slightly perfectionistic and struggle to give themselves wiggle room when they need it is the rigidity of their expectations, no matter what the season of life that they're in is. And this can be at the beginning of the journey when we're literally setting the stage and they are comparing themselves to maybe a teenage version of their health and fitness or a young 20s version of their health and fitness compared to where they are in their life right now. Or I see it in the journey where we're going from season to season, whether that's the phase of the journey like the fat loss phase, the reverse diet, the maintenance phase, the foundation setting phase, and being able to change our expectations based on that. Or I see it when we are changing phases of life within our work together. So we are going from one job to the other, going from 0 kids to 1 or 1 kid to 2, or even just transitioning from a vacation back to normal life or normal life to vacation, or changing our environment to some degree. And the biggest mistake that I see a lot of y'all making is holding the same rigid expectations from one season and trying to carry it over to the other, rather than inserting a pause and a reorientation of what do my expectations need to be now. So the very first thing that we want to address here is that having seasons of your life and your health and fitness is normal. It is not a failure to pivot your goals or to move the goalposts or change your expectations of yourself. And in fact, it could be one of your greatest successes. Because if you really zoom out, if you think about your journey as a whole, how many times have you felt the need to start over or give up and start again later because of a season of life change that felt like you couldn't meet the expectations that you once had for yourself in this new season? And what we're trying to do here is prevent the all or nothing and create continuity throughout all seasons of your life to show your brain, show your nervous system that you can sustain this lifestyle in many different ways and in all different seasons. The difficult thing about it is that most times that we are dealing with this with clients, it's a conversation of lowering the bar and changing the goalpost to something that is either less rigid, less strict, or more flexible. And that doesn't sit well with our type A, high achieving, overachieving personalities. We feel like that is a failure, when in reality, again, it can build to the greatest momentum that we've ever seen. So for example, if you feel like this is a season where you need to pause and reset and lower your expectations for yourself based on a different season. Maybe you were going to the gym 4 to 5 times per week, and now the expectation should be 2 to 3. Or you were getting 10,000 steps per day, but the time that is allotted in your life right now maybe more so aligns with 6,000 or 7,000 steps per day. Those are adjustments that will keep you in the game rather than quitting. And something I always like to emphasize with clients is that health is an infinite game. Meaning there's no winners or losers. If you get healthy, it feels like you won, but then you have to keep being healthy. And there's no stopping, because when you stop, that's when we become unhealthy. So we need to start treating our health like an infinite game instead of a finite game that can be won by having the most amount of points or doing the best for a short period of time, and instead think from a longevity perspective. The next thing I want to make sure that we cover is distinguishing between a temporary pivot and giving up. So for example, pausing a habit or modifying a habit is a conscious choice, whereas quitting is abandoning yourself and your goals altogether. So for example, if you are in a fat loss phase, but you're getting hit with the busiest month at work, combined with personal stressors, combined with demands on your time, and you need to put a pause on your fat loss phase, that is a strategic change that you are putting into place that's going to help you pick back up with it after that season is over, rather than looking at it as a failure and saying, well, I guess it just wasn't meant to be for me. And the next thing we want to do is actually define what does it look like to scale back? What does it look like to have contingency plans? And what does it look like to have different levels and layers of success for different seasons of life? And the best way that I know how to describe this is with a system and tool that we have called our red, yellow, and green light plans. I may have actually talked about this in other modules because it's a super popular one here at PCC. But a quick explanation is, if you think of a stoplight with green, yellow, and red lights on it, what does that mean, right? Green means go. So green is a great day, a day where everything is going according to plan and you're going to be able to hit all of your targets. A yellow day is where maybe a few things don't go according to plan and you need to pivot and change some things around to make sure that you still hit your goals. And then a red day is shit hit the fan type of day. Everything is chaos. Nothing is going as planned. It's an emergency. It's a disaster. And you need to ask yourself, what is the bare minimum expectation that I can still uphold even on a day like that to keeping promises to myself? So with all of your habits, all of the things that you're working on right now, we want to ask ourselves, what is the smallest possible version of that habit that I can still do even on what we would call a red day? So for a workout, instead of an hour at the gym or 30 minutes at the gym for a workout, our red day alternative might be doing a couple of stretches for 3 to 5 minutes from home or going on a quick 10-minute walk. For our nutrition, a red day alternative to something like tracking and hitting all of your macros or calorie targets might be logging things just for awareness sake. It might be taking photos of your food just to keep a visual in mind. It might be just implementing mindful eating practices in circumstances where tracking is not going to be something you have the bandwidth for. And something that you might be thinking at this point, because this is how my brain operates, so I have to assume it's how some of yours will operate, is how do we know when scaling back is actually the right move versus just being lazy? And one thing to make very, very clear when it comes to moving the goalpost in each season, it doesn't mean that we don't strive for our best. Let's not get that confused. Expectations are not the same as standards, right? So your standard of living might be grounded in your values of movement, health, nourishment at this point, but expectations are things like I need to get it perfectly, or otherwise I'm a failure. Or if I don't hit A, B, C, D, then it was all a waste. And so in this process, we are still upholding our standards. We are still doing what's necessary for us to move the needle on our goals, but we are adjusting expectations and making sure that those match the context of the season. And lastly, let's not forget that a big part of this adjustment is mental. And you being able to build what is called mental flexibility is a really big part of your long-term success. Because we all say that progress is not a straight line, but it's the ability to adapt, the ability to look at your life from a bunch of different lenses and adapt no matter what's being thrown at you that is going to make this sustainable and you successful in the long run. And all of us, we don't come in having large amounts of mental flexibility. We build it. We practice it with tools like these, and then your coach will help you reinforce that. So remember, every time that you reset without guilting or shaming yourself, you're adding another tick to the scoreboard to show you that you're in this for life, not just a quick fix or chasing perfection. Thanks so much for watching this module. If this resonated with you, share with your coach what came up for you in the section respective to the course modules on your check-in, and I'll look forward to seeing you back here in the next one.